between two users. First, you need to get the data from user 1, then you need to get the data from user 2, and then you need to get the messages these users wrote each other to finally be able to construct the chat object. In the past, this was usually handled with callback functions, so the requests run asynchronously and notify us with the data when it's available. So you can think of it, for example, as a function getUser1. That is a lambda function. It gives us user1 here. And because all of that data we want to get here relies on each other, so we need to get user1, user2, and the messages to finally construct a chat object, then that means we also need to call getUser2 inside of this getUser1 function, because only if we got user1, we want to call getUser2. Because then we want to get the second user. And in here, we finally want to be able to get the messages between those two users. So we call a function getMessages. And here we can finally construct our chat object. And as you can see, that is super ugly code. And that is also exactly what is considered the callback hell, because you have so many callbacks nested into each other, and there's actually no way out. But luckily, since we have coroutines, there is a way out, and that is using coroutines. Because they can just pause and resume, they don't rely on callbacks. So we can just make network call 1, pause until the data is available, make network call 2, pause until the data is available again, and so on. So we can get all the data without indenting our code. But let's actually see how we can use coroutines with Firestore on a real example. For that, we need to add an additional dependency, which I will paste in the description, of course. So I will just paste it in my build.gradle file here. And I also assume that you set up Firestore already, because this tutorial is not about setting that up. If you don't know how to do that, then you shouldn't watch a video about using coroutines in Firestore, and you should rather learn how to set it up first. So I will just paste the dependency here, that is this coroutines play services dependency. And what I also want to change is I want to use the KTX dependency of Firestore, so we can just append a minus KTX here. That is just basically the Kotlin version of Firestore, and it's optimized for Kotlin. So if you have done that, click on sync now and go back into main activity. And just to give you a little insights, here's my Firestore database. I just created a collection coroutines and a document tutorial in that, which is currently empty. And I'll just show you how we can set data to that document while using coroutines. And afterwards, we will get that data and display it on a text view in our app. So the text view is actually in my activity main. I already created that. It is called TV data and initially says didn't get any data yet. So make sure to set that up and jump back into main activity. First of all, let's get the document reference, val tutorial document, and I will set that equal to firebase.firestore. We have to import firebase dot collection. Here you have to insert your own collection name, of course. Mine is coroutines, and get the document afterwards with the name tutorial. And let's actually move this into a separate line here for readability. Then I will quickly create a data class person up here, which will just be the data that I will paste in my database, in my document. I will give it a name, which is a string, of course, and set it to an empty string initially, and make sure to really give these arguments default values, because otherwise they won't work with Firestore. And I will give it an age, which is an integer, and set it to -1. Then we can go down and create an instance of that person class. I will just call it Peter, which is person, of course. The name is Peter, and he is 25 years old. Then we can start a coroutine now. I will just use global scope here, global scope.launch. And I will launch this in the IO dispatcher, of course, because we are using an IO operation here. And when we now want to add data to our Firestore document, then the only thing we need to do is we need to take our tutorial document or document reference and call .set after that. And then we can pass a class here, so basically any object that should be saved in that document. In our case, that is just our Peter, and that is it. But if we leave it like that, it won't actually make use of our coroutine. Instead, what we need to do is we need to call .await afterwards. Whoops, .await. And if we press on await and press Ctrl+Q, you can see that is actually a suspend function, so that will block our coroutine until the data is available, or in this case until the data is successfully set to our document. And in general, every time a Firebase function returns a task object like this set function, if we press Ctrl+Q on that, you can see this returns a task. Then we can call .await on that and basically execute this task in our coroutine. So as you can see, it's super easy to use coroutines with Firestore. Let's also get the data that we just set to our document by writing tutorial document.get this time. And as you can see, this get function also returns a task. So we can call this await function on that. Let's do that, .await. And we also want to convert this to an object. So we are actually able to get the data in form of a Kotlin object. So we call .toObject afterwards, and now we have to provide a class so Kotlin knows how to interpret that data. And that is exactly our person class. That should be the output of that function. And this time we of course want to save that in a variable. So val person is equal to this piece of code. And to actually set that person data now to our text view, if you remember, we need to switch the context of our coroutine because we're currently in the IO dispatcher and we're only allowed to change UI in the main dispatcher. So let's write with context dispatchers.main. And in here we just call tvdata.text is equal to person.toString. And let's also actually add a little bit delay here. Like 3 seconds is fine, I guess, so we just see what's going on, because those two lines will be executed immediately. We won't even notice a time difference. So let's run our app and try it out. You can see, didn't get any data yet. And after 3 seconds, it got the person data from our Firestore. And also if I take a look in my Firestore, there is our Peter with age 25. And what we prevented right here is basically that we have an on success listener here, on success task. Let's choose this. And inside here, we get the person again without await, have an on success task again. So that callback hell, you know what I mean. It's just something that you can very easily prevent with coroutines. And that's why they are so popular and cool right now. And also, as you know from the last video, coroutines are actually live